Hi, my name is Johnny, and I'm a web developer as part of a team working on the Utility Network Editor here at Esri UK. The Utility Network Editor, or UNE, is a web-based editor application which sits upon and abides by all of the rules of Esri's utility network services. Today, I'm going to be running through how you can use UNE to create highly tailored applications which leverage all of the power of your utility network services whilst focusing in on the experience of your end users who are actively building, supporting, and making decisions based off of the network. I'll be putting myself in the shoes of a GIS manager who wants to ensure that the different user groups in the utility organization are able to meet their own challenges and get what they need from the network. If you take a look at this slide, you can see that I've highlighted a sample of some of the many different user groups we might need to be able to support in their workflows. First, take field engineers and surveyors. This is a user group which will constantly be interacting with and editing the network. They will be a source of lots of new raw data, updating the current state of the network and connectivity all in real time. It is also probable that they will be actively making decisions based on the local information they have on the network around them. Next, we have a QA or data technician user group. This group is more focused on maintaining the data quality and integrity of the network. They might be managing and supporting other teams, and they will likely be reviewing many of the changes and branched versions which have been created by the field editors. Lastly, we have the operations and customer services teams. These groups are only viewing the network and are not going to be making any edits. They are interested in understanding the up and downstream impact of the changes to the network. If you have a leak, for example, if you have a leak on a water mains, what are the customers downstream who are going to be impacted by this leak? And also, where do I need to send engineers to turn off a valve which might be able to isolate that section of the network? As you can hear, all of these teams have very different requirements. And what I hope to do is to show you how simple it is to meet these requirements with the Utility Network Editor. I will start off by showing you the process to create a base application. This is the out-of-the-box application which you can create using your portal's utility network service without any configuration. We will then look at some of the many configuration options which are available within the application builder to start tailoring that starting application towards the different user groups that I've mentioned here. Here I am inside the Utility Network Editor builder. This is where I can start configuring and adding new Utility Network Editor applications that work with my organization's utility network services. The first thing I'm going to do is to demonstrate the process of creating a new editor application. So I'm going to click to create a new application. I'm going to select the Utility Network Editor template. And I'm going to go and find the utility network service that I want to use, in this case, a water distribution network. I'm going to give it a name for the portal item. I'm going to create my utility network editor application. And as you see there, it's reading in the metadata associated with my utility network service and using that to configure a default application and also a corresponding web map which is created together with the editor. And this web map can be configured and styled to how you want it to be viewable within the editor. And if I go to some of the data rules I can have, you can see that it's added in all of the utility network layers. And it's also, if I look at some of the display settings, pulled in some of the things like the view thresholds for different asset groups within the utility network. and this will be all visible when I launch the app. So let's, without configuring anything, just see what the application looks like to begin with. So once the application is loaded, you can see it's launching inside my browser. It's then going to start loading in the utility network services. I'm quite zoomed out at the moment, so you can see the view thresholds have kicked in. As I zoom in, I can start seeing the individual utility network assets, and it's using the same rendering, in this case, which I set up within ArcGIS Pro when I published up my service to the portal. Some of the base configuration features which get included is all the information on your network rules. So the utility network editor is reading the metadata associated with the utility network service, and therefore understands and reads in all of the rules about the different ways in which your utility assets can be connected or associated to each other. So first of all, let's have a look at perhaps a controllable valve. Let's look at a hydrant. And you can see here that this hydrant valve can be connected to a hydrant service, and it also can be contained by a fire hydrant. I've got the option directly from my network rules panel to create one of these controllable valves. And you'll see if I zoom in, it's glowing on the map exactly where would be a valid place to create that new asset. So if I just demo for now, just adding it, you can see that actually this asset has some required properties in a data model which need to be filled in. So when I create this feature, I need to make sure that I include these attributes. For now, I'm just going to cancel out of that. I've also got access to my extent history, so I can navigate easily back and forth between my previous and home and different map extents which I've been moving through. I've got access to the trace panel, but at the moment I've only configured, well, I haven't configured any traces, so I've just got a connected trace. And I have the option to switch between different versions of my utility network service. So this is the base out-of-the-box application with no configuration. And this is perhaps would be suitable for some organizations, but as we talked about, I want to start looking at how I can start tailoring my user experience towards those different user groups which make up my organization. So let's first look at an application which is configured towards editors out in the field. So now back in the Utility Network Editor application builder, we're going to have a look at this application which I've configured for field editors. Now, the specific job that these field editors are going to be doing is going out and updating or adding information about residential services and fire hydrants for the water network. So the first thing I've done is to change the feature templates which appear for the users when they're creating new features. In the base application, we automatically create a very long list of all of the possible utility network assets that you could create on your network. However, because I'm tailoring this just to a specific workflow of creating residential services and fire hydrants, I've actually removed many of the default feature templates, thus restricting the users to specific features that they'll be able to create. If I open up and edit one of these features, you can see that I have the option to alter the template defaults as well in order to control kind of the default feature attribution when a user chooses to add a new feature onto the map. I've also added some smart templates, which I'll demo in a moment, which allows me to add some extra logic into the feature creation process. These are similar, they act similar to group feature templates within ArcGIS Pro. I've also turned on and added on some additional panels. So in the builder, I can add a new panel. You can configure your own custom panels, which can contain charts and HTML inlays and things like that. But in this case, I've added in what is a plans panel. This plans panel allows users to add in images into the application and georeference them on the map, and then use these to help guide their digitization. So say you've got a kind of a plan for a new, some new section of your network, you can upload that and orientate it as you need it. So let's take a look at this application actually running. So now the application has started, you can see that immediately on the left-hand side, the versioning panel has opened up. I've done this to help prompt the user that they need to switch into a new branched version before making edits, as they won't be able to edit default. For example, if I select a network asset on the map and I go to its properties, you can see that they are all currently in a read-only mode. I cannot make any changes. It's possible to launch the user into a specific version using URL parameters, or I can create a new version from within the panel. Once I've created that version, you can see I've been switched into it. And if I then select a feature on the map, I'm now able to make edits to the property, and I've also got access to additional tools to reshape and adjust the geometry. So now that I've switched into a version, I want to do a bit of a demo of creating features and adding assets onto the water network. I'm going to jump to a location where I'm going to demo adding a new fire hydrant onto the water main. So I'm going to go to the create button, and I'm going to choose from the feature templates. You can see that I've only got a small list of options here. I'm going to first of all add a fitting. So this is, I'm just going to add a fitting T. And when I choose to create that feature, UNE has highlighted valid places to add that feature. I've created the fitting T, and now I want to add a fire hydrant. Now, I could, well, in the process of adding my fire hydrant service, I could choose to create the kind of the edge feature, the hydrant service, and then add on the fire hydrant and also the controllable valve as separate features. But to help the editors, I've created a smart template. I'm going to, so for the smart template, I just start digitizing a line. And as I do so, you can see that it's created a feature here, which is the controllable valve. I'm going to choose to add a fire hydrant onto the end because there isn't one there already. And if I click OK, you can see that it's created all three features all together in one go there. So the editors haven't had to go and individually add each of these features. It's kind of streamlining and simplifying that process of adding a new hydrant service. I can verify that these features are connected onto the network. If I go to the graph view, you can see I've got my fire hydrant. It's connected to the hydrant service. And if I expand that out, you can see that the hydrant service here is connected to a controllable valve and the other hydrant service, which then connects onto the fitting T. So you can see kind of a really nice self-contained workflow for starting to make edits and adding on new network assets onto the network. And next I want to show you the plans capability. So if I go to a section of my map where I've got a plan, I'm going to open up the plans tool, and I'm going to choose to add kind of a schematic diagram I have. You can see that the map's being rotated, and I have the option to start resizing the plan and getting it into the location where I want it. I can make it a bit more transparent just to see it. And then once I have it in the location which I want it, I can give my plan a name. So called new residential features. I can choose whether I want to share this plan with others. This will allow other users to also, if they're in this location, see this plan on the map if they want to add it. I can click OK, and you can see that it's now been added there for me to start being able to digitize over using this as a reference. And I can change things like the transparency, I can skew it, and do some basic georeferencing to get it so it exactly lines up how I want it to. So that's a quick run through of the field editing application. But now I want to demonstrate a application which has been tailored towards my quality assurance team. So let's open up my QA workflow application. And in this one, I've focused more on validation and versioning. So I've made sure that the validation panel is going to be included in the application. And I've also, in the versioning panel, enabled additional capabilities. And in this application, I allow users to post edits. So they're going to be able to manage other users' branches and post these back to default after giving them a check. And they can also delete branches if necessary. There's an option here to control how merge conflicts should be handled, and some simple options here. Launching the application, we can see the network again. First thing I'm going to do as a QA user is to go to the versioning panel and to switch to the version that we were editing in the field editor app. When I do so, you can see that the edits have now appeared from this branch, and also if I zoom out, the validation panel has shown me all of the areas where there has been an edit to a feature. And I can choose the option to validate the network to check that they're going to be consistent with the network's connectivity. Once that's area's been validated, we can see there's no validation errors, which means that the edits are consistent with the network rules. I can click the option to save. And at this point, I could go to that version and I could choose to post those edits back to default if I was to choose. So that's a quick kind of run through of a QA workflow. I'm just going to finish off finally looking at an application which has been tailored towards operations teams. So I'm now going to look at the operations team application in the builder. In this application, I've made quite a few changes. First of all, I've removed any versioning capabilities. I want to make sure that the users of this application are using the default branch and aren't switching to different branches. So they're always going to be working in default. In the data rules editor, I've made it so that users aren't able to make edits to any of the network layers. So they won't be able to edit any of the network assets. In addition to this, I've added in some traces. So within the traces command, I've added in an isolation trace and a downstream water trace. You can see here I've got all the configuration options to tailor the trace to how I want it to be. I've also got a network device trace report here set up, which when I complete a trace is able to produce a HTML report with data from the selected assets which were selected from the trace. So let's view this application. So now the application is loaded. You can see that I'm looking at a section of my network. One of the things which I've also done is to add some dynamic map feedback. So if I hover over one of my water devices here, you can see that I've added in a label. This is to help the operations team quickly see the identifier and the status and who maintains different assets on the network. So if I just have a look at this device over here, you can see that it's from the features picking up the ID, the status, and who maintains it. If I select any of my assets, I can see the property information, but I'm not able to make an edit. It's in a read-only mode. I do have the capability to run traces, so I'm going to run an isolation trace. I'm going to create a trace start and try to isolate this section of my network. Now I've put a nice starting point. I'm going to click run. And you'll see that it's selected the two valves which I need to close to isolate this section. And I can view these features within my network device reports. And this has the two features, and I can export or print this. Our vision is that the admin users, when they're configuring the application, could tailor this existing report to whatever information needs to be shown to the user, or they could set it up to interact with external systems, such as asset management systems, to bring in useful information which will help the operations teams make their decisions. So thank you for watching our video on the Utility Network Editor. We hope that you've seen some of the possibilities and especially how configurable the editor is to the different use cases and different teams in your organization which will be interacting with your utility network services. If you have any questions, we'd be very interested to hear them and wish you all the best.